And welcome to Social Impact TV. I'm Anna Choi, your host. And what this channel is about is hearing from everyday local leaders, diverse perspectives that make a difference and leave you inspired in action. So I am proud to have with me today Anthony Martinez. I had the privilege of, as a colleague, working with him in a course we did called the Self-Expression and Leadership Program. And he, by day, is a property manager, just got promoted. Congratulations. And then by night, he busts sex traffickers on the property. He's also a dilettante of many sorts. He is a Zumba instructor and a wellness coach. Anyway, so you've recently lost how many pounds now?
I'm down 47 pounds.
47 pounds. Okay, great. Anyway, so Anthony's here with us today to share specifically on sex trafficking. So if you could just share with us what had you even first, come in contact with your first case. Because, one thing I want to say is, in the realm of sex trafficking, it can be really heavy, and the more you learn, the more it's depressing, because you're like, wow, didn't know that, how bad it was. Oh, what? It's happening right around me? What? With people that look like super normal? But I think it's important to at least be aware, and then there are some key actions that we can take inside of that. So what was your first interaction with sex trafficking on the property?
It was when I first started at the property. We ended up getting a call from a resident, or she wasn't a resident at the time, but she called saying that she was afraid for her life and that she was being held against her will in one of our apartments. And she didn't want us to call the cops. I was able to talk her down and get her to agree to allow me to do it. And then we ended up getting the cops out there to assist us. Unfortunately, they weren't able to help, not help, but they weren't able to get her out due to, they needed a warrant for us to help them out. And we needed a warrant. And so that.
When he knocked on the door, because you had told me, we'd been sharing about this earlier. So what did she say? Or what did he say?
So he went to go knock on the door, and he was hoping that she would come out and say that she needed help. And when he knocked on the door, she turned around and said everything was fine. And so at that point, he just wasn't able to do anything.
Even though she had agreed to talk to the cops?
Yeah.
She got too scared. And what was she scared about? Was it?
What she ended up telling us was she was scared that if the person that was holding her against her will found out that she reached out to us and cops were called, that he would take her life.
And he was abusive or whatnot. She shared that.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, great. So fast forward, so then what happened? Did they just leave, or what happened?
I ended up having to evict them out of my property. The cops weren't able, they did several stings trying to get her out, but they weren't able to successfully do it before I evicted them. And so I don't honestly know if they ever got her out of the situation.
Wow. And then you left home, you were sharing this with me earlier, you just left home. What was that like for you?
It was very defeating because I just felt so powerless in the situation. I wanted to help her so bad, and I just felt defeated that we had to jump through so many hoops to help someone in need. And at the end of the day, I don't know what happened to her.
Ugh. So now, fast forward, you are now involved in multiple cases. I know that you've been responsible and part of being a major informant for one of the biggest busts in history in our local area of Bellevue and Seattle of traffickers. And for those who may not know about this topic, 25% of traffickers are actually white collar, according to some surveys from a symposium I went to on trafficking. So they're just they could be tech engineers, developers, other white collar folks, and they at 2 p.m. are going into the garage of the Hyatt-like buildings and doing this business.
Yeah, one of them was a doctor at one point.
Yeah, what were the different professions of a doctor? Do you know the other one?
There was doctors, engineers, teachers.
Okay, got it. So you busted a whole bunch of them. And you were just sharing how you just met, like, what, yesterday you're in the middle of one right now.
Yes.
What yesterday, share about that, or what happened?
Yesterday, the police came to me and informed me of a situation that was going on at my property and what they suspected. So I've been working with them. 5 police showed up and 2 detectives. And so I'm just working, one-on-one with them, trying to, be a space where they can do their job and help them as much as I can.
And it sounds like the police are pretty, sometimes I know they could be understaffed, but you've been working directly with them continuously, yeah? And did you mention, like, and also like the FBI or the CIA or things like that sometimes, or no?
No, yeah, I've worked personally with the FBI on some of these cases. At one point, I had a contact with the FBI, and I'd email them, directly, and they would let me know about stings that they were doing. I would, anytime I saw something, I would inform them and bring them in a loop, and they would come in and meet with me, and then we would just go over what the next steps were.
So from that first interaction where you could not make that difference, it was devastating. Instead of just stay defeated, like, I am powerless, what did you do instead? Share, like, how you made a difference like systemically in the system.
What I did different, I did several things. First, I got involved with the police department and found out that they actually bring community managers together so we can work together to help the police department fight this. So we would have meetings once a month with them, letting them know what's going on, what we can do.
They train you guys too, right? As property managers, what to look out for and things?
Yes. And so I did that. And then as a company, what we ended up doing, I teamed up with another manager, and we were training our management team on what they should do. And then we also implemented ways to make it harder for people who get kicked out for these reasons, because at the time they could get kicked out of one property and go directly to another property. And so what we did is we worked with the company to implement a way to block them from going to other properties.
Gotcha.
So just trying to make it as difficult for them as possible. So just really trying to evolve the culture in the company around it.
What are some ways people can make a difference in this area, right? Like, obviously we can't be as engaged as you are as your day job, but what do you think are the most important things, takeaways for people with this?
I think the biggest takeaways, especially if you live in an apartment complex or even just in a neighborhood, is one, get to know your neighbors, know who's around you, be aware and be vigilant. Even if you're coming home at 11 o'clock, still looking around you. If there's anything that you see odd or out of the norm, especially on a property, let the property manager know immediately, even if it's by email or by phone. That way we can address the issue and deal with it right then and there. I've had in the past, I'll find out 2 or 3 weeks later that a resident saw a prostitute in our clubhouse. But I can't deal with it if they don't tell me right then and there. So I really need to know this information as soon as it happens.
Why do you think? And you think people people don't inform right away just because they're too busy or they're scared? Because how? Even in doing this episode, right? I was kind of scared, I don't want to put myself on public about this topic because maybe I'll have some of those sex traffickers find out and then want to do something, get back at me or something for vocalizing or revealing what they're doing. But you do this all the time, and you generously are sharing this. What's your what about that?
So what I've learned about that is they don't want to bring attention to themselves. And so they're going to act as normal as, possible. And so, bringing it to the people's attentions is perfectly fine. And it can cause them to be scared and run if they find out that someone's onto them.
Gotcha. That is so opposite to what I was thinking of as like an aggressor, right?
Hmm.
So it's more incognito and they don't want any attention.
Yeah.
Interesting. Could they incognito hurt you?
Well, I mean, of course, I guess in sense, in incognito, anybody can hurt you.
Right. I know. I don't want to keep attracting that, right? That's being very face versus making a difference and being powerful and being the light, shining our light, right?
Yeah, but you have to remember these are people that are engineers and doctors that have good jobs, and so they're not going to want to risk that and bring any attention and cause themselves to get fired, or cause some of them may have family and they don't want to bring that to them. And so you just want just understand that, and you don't have to go out and tell everybody in the world about it, but you do want to be knowledgeable and share and know your neighbors, and you guys talk with each other, and that way you guys are aware of what's going on around you.
Do they just think it's like socially acceptable?
Yeah, I mean, some people think it's socially acceptable, not necessarily because it's us.
Trafficking, right? Like not just prostitution. We're talking about human, like exploiting people who didn't want to do this. Yeah, they think it's
because in some parts of the world it is fine, and what's happening is it's the norm. And what's happening is because we have a huge, diverse city here, they think it's okay to do that here.
Oh, okay, good. So one, know your neighbor, care about them, right? So you can report, and then also report anything suspicious.
Yes.
Don't let being busy or it's not going to matter. If you've got an inkling and trust your gut and something's off, you got to go make a difference, because it could be somebody's life. I mean, you've actually dealt with this firsthand where it's too late.
Yeah.
And when you do make that difference, you've also, from that bust, right, how many people were freed? Like you freed a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, I don't remember the numbers because it was a while back, but it was several. There was several people that got free from it.
Gotcha. Okay, well, and just thank you for your generosity, Anthony. And I know it's a little understated maybe in this episode, but you have really made a difference for so many people in their life, both in ship shaping the traffickers as well as the other side. I think it's important to bring compassion to both sides, because nobody is born wanting to be a trafficker or be trafficked. And so just really elevating our own consciousness and compassion for both sides, I think is key, and making sure that we keep indoctrinating, like it's just not okay, even if they think it's okay,
Yeah.
Not okay.
Yeah.
Something basic like that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.